Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So, there's one last strange relationship that we need to look at before the Season of the Wish really kicks off. That relationship is the one between the Nine and the Ahamkara. It's a bit of a weird thing to marry a pair of disparate topics together like this, but upon further examination, there is actually a little bit of a link between them that I thought was worth investigating. Today we're going to do just that. And we're going to see if there is a slim chance that the Nine might appear next season and be involved. But first, a word from our sponsors over at Gamer Advantage. I've talked about their great glasses in the past. They come with blue light filter tech, which protects your eyesight from suffering adverse effects that you would get from looking at screens for an extended period of time. This reduces eye strain and headaches while assisting with focus and reaction times, meaning that you're always at the top of your game. As you might expect, they have a ton of great-looking frames, but the biggest part of the package, which really sold it for me in particular, was that their glasses can be prescription. You just need to get your prescription and give it to them, and they can actually give you proper prescription eyewear. So if you're like me and you don't have 20/20 vision, this is actually really practical for you as well. Their Black Friday sale is on this week until the 27th of November, which means you'll get 25% off site-wide, with a ton of daily deals. Check them out on Cyber Monday in particular, where you can get 60% off of their Storm, Arbors, Terra, and Walden frames. If you want great blue light protection, go ahead and check out Gamer Advantage today. Use my link in the description or use code BYF, that's B-Y-F, to get an additional 10% off on top of all those sales. Thanks again to Gamer Advantage for sponsoring this video. Anyway, back to the lore. The Nine are always one of those weird nebulous topics that both connects to everything and connects to nothing, seemingly. As per usual with one of these complicated topics, I think it's important for us to all understand the basics before we really get into it. And whilst recently I've gone over a bunch of what the Ahamkara are, and the lore behind them, some of you may not necessarily have heard or know about the lore of what the Nine are, so we're going to go ahead and make sure that we're all on the same page. It's no small task to explain what the Nine are, but I'll do my best. Essentially, the Nine are sentient dark matter-based entities that are specific to the Sol system. Now, that's a lot to wrap your head around, so let's go ahead and clarify things a little bit more before we read any lore on them. What is dark matter is probably where we should start. Well, dark matter is a theoretical kind of matter that's based on the simple premises that out in space, we can see that there are gravitational effects that aren't caused by regular matter. However, these gravitational effects also seemingly are caused by particles that in theory do not interact with light or the electromagnetic field. These theoretical particles are what dark matter essentially is. Now, I don't want to get too into the reeds on this one, but according to standard models of the universe that scientists have devised, the matter we interact with on a daily basis makes up only 5% of the energy and mass of the universe. About 27%, give or take, is made up of dark matter, and the remaining 68% is made up of another theorized kind of energy called dark energy. Essentially, forget about the dark energy stuff, but think of it like this. Where matter isn't, dark matter might be. It's not exactly the inverse of matter in the universe, but it's relatively close. This is a layman's understanding of the science of it, by the way, so please keep that in mind. If you're an actual physicist in the comments section, please feel free to educate everybody in the comments section and to pick holes in what I'm talking about here. I'm just trying to give the most basic of understandings as is relevant to the lore, so if there is something I've missed, feel free to fill me in. I am not the expert. With that idea of what dark matter is in mind, though, let's return to the Nine. They are sentient dark matter. How does that work? Well, in the book Dust, it's actually kind of explained, or at very least the fact that that is the case is clarified. There are two lore entries that really clarify the Nine's existence. They're titled The Declaration and The Nine, appropriately so on the last one. Reading an excerpt from the first of them, The Declaration, shows that we actually get this reading from the perspective of the Nine. They tell us the following. You want our source? Our primal cause? We are the shadows of your world's mass. Old dark dust, ever gravity flowing. Intelligences world round each world's core. 9 hourglass pinches in a galactic wind. Too large to see, too small to miss. Our mass binds, your fate frees. Our philosophies lay divided. We try to guard and nurture you, and we cherish you as shadows cherish flame, watching your swift, bright lives flicker, die, sustained by the patterns of your thought, but distant, unreachable, beyond what we are or what we were. The answer lies in severing. Two sides, a single coin. Alliance and contact, solitude and silence. So, all of that sounds and looks like a bunch of gibberish, but let's unpack some key bits of it. In particular, let's start with this line. We are the shadows of your world's mass, old dark dust, ever gravity flowing. That sentence pretty clearly spells out that they are indeed dark matter. This'll all make a lot more sense when you see the interpretation of this declaration that's given in the next entry in this lore book. This is an interpretation of the declaration given by the cryptarch Lavinia, who was seeking the Nine. These are her final notes about the Nine's nature, and with this, things are spelled out a lot more clearly. With a horror of revelation so absolute that it would drive her mad if she still had sanity to lose, Lavinia understands where the Nine have always been. They are within everyone, every system, every living and moving thing. Trillions and pentillions of slim, dark matter tentacles plunged through all our bodies, drinking up the complexity of our lives and thought. We are all pinched silhouettes, impaled by the twitching of infinitely long spider legs. The Nine are again confirmed to be dark matter here, specifically with that line of trillions and pentillions of slim dark matter tentacles plunged through all our bodies, drinking up the complexity of our lives and thoughts. And it's really that last bit, drinking up the complexity of our lives and thoughts, that lends context to what the Nine are relative to us and the nature of their existence. Listen to a moment from these lines from the Nine's declaration, and it gives you a little bit more context. We try to guard and nurture you, and we cherish you as shadows cherish flame, watching your swift, bright lives flicker, die, sustained by the patterns of your thought. Then take another look at Lavinia's revelation, the next lore page again, and you see these lines which give even more context and kind of reveal the heart of things. But life arose on the worlds at the heart of the Nine. Tiny, complicated motions of ecosystems and metabolisms and computations. That life left mass shadows in the world of the Nine, plucking at them like harp strings. From these trembles of structure, the Nine learned to seed enormous resonating waves, thoughts vaster than worlds. So the Nine awoke, and in time they understood that they were as fragile as they were mighty. For if the life that seeded their thoughts ever passed away, they too would vanish. That last bit is really the key. The Nine can't exist without us. Much like a shadow given form by a source of light, the Nine are given form by us as our inverse. They are dark matter transposed against our matter. Where we exist, they are like the negative of us. Without us, they wouldn't exist at all. Our thoughts, our lives, our complexities give them function, thought. Ultimately, I think it's best summarized by that last line that I pointed out in the Declaration lore entry, where it says, two sides, a single coin, alliance and contact, solitude and silence. If we are in alliance with the Nine and we do have contact with them, there will be equally alliances brought back to us, and contact will be made because the thing on the other side, the Nine, it is alive. But in solitude, if only one exists, or if the other ceases to exist, so would the other, and there would be silence forevermore. This is the nature of the Nine. They cannot exist without us. And that, hopefully, gives you a better idea of what the Nine are. So now that we understand the Nine and their nature a little bit better, why might they be so interested in the Ahamkara? The answer to that on the surface might seem fairly obvious. Ahamkara are beasts of paracausal ability. They have the capacity to reshape the world as they desire, or more fittingly perhaps as others desire. From that inverse, the Nine can take shape and grow, and become infinitely stronger or more resilient, if they should only wish it. That is something that we'll touch on in just a second. But of course, it's worth remembering that in the process of Destiny's history, the Ahamkara ceased to exist thanks to the Great Hunt. Their extinction was not inevitable, but it did have long-term ramifications on the city. And that's where we might want to start, by taking a look yet again at the Dust Book. In this book we see the tale of Lavinia, a cryptarch who I mentioned earlier. Her obsession is a search for answers regarding the Nine, and in this process the Ahamkara do actually come up. In particular, there's the entry titled The Bone, which sees Lavinia caught in the act of stealing an Ahamkara bone from the archives of the Cryptarchy. That lore entry reads as follows. They are waiting for Lavinia in the courtyard of the ruined tower, although they do not strike until she holds the guilty object in her hand. A Titan in New Monarchy red pins her to the ground. A hunter with a gun barrel as wide as the moon cuffs her and calls her a looter. Rahul has a watch on this one, the Titan remarks, consulting her black-tipped ghost. Says it's for her own protection. The hunter hisses and flinches back. She's got a bone. Get off her, enough! This new voice is strange to Lavinia, but the power in it can only be Ikora Ray's. You will never touch a mortal human in anger again. That is not our purpose. Thunder booms. Something detonates nearby. Lavinia's ears pop. She gets the sense that, voluntary or otherwise, the two New Monarchy Guardians have vanished. Lavinia tries to stand up, but vertigo and the cuffs pitch her sideways, and she lands hard on her hip. Master Ray, she gasps. I'm sorry, I should have filed it. Lavinia. Ikora's coiled fury has a tooth of fear in it. Open your left hand. There's a bone in her hand, a long chunk of jaw with one huge white protruding tooth. It's warm and comforting and solid. She clutches it protectively. The key. The egg tooth that will crack open the mystery of the Nine and put her back in her master's good graces and save her from the probation Rahul dropped on her when he hauled her out of the archives. With an effort of will that makes her shout out loud, she opens her fist and drops the Ahamkara bone. Ikora Ray makes it fly away. You weren't after that bone, it was after you. Did you make a wish, Lavinia? Did you ask to know about the Nine? She tries to explain that she didn't, that she only wanted to track the bone back to its source, Venus, hopefully, and then learn why the Nine needed the Ahamkara. Why do you think the Nine needed the Ahamkara? Ikora asks, dangerously. To make wishes, Lavinia pants. Zur didn't appear in the tower until the end of the Great Ahamkara Hunt. Whatever they used to get from the Ahamkara... She leaves it unsaid. Maybe the Nine are now getting it from Guardians. Ikora rubs her brow. I can't stop you. But if you keep looking, I can't protect you from the consequences. Help me, Lavinia begs. There's something here, something that connects everything. The trials, and the Ahamkara, and the Guardians, and the Nine. There are things the consensus knows about Gaul's attack, things they haven't told us. Ikora Ray puts up a finger. Lavinia shuts up. Choose. Are you going to go back to school and let me pretend you were never here? Or do I have to report you for theft of an Ahamkara bone? Lavinia takes a deep breath. I'm sorry, she says. I have to keep going. I'll try my luck. The tribunal's verdict is unanimous. Lavinia Garcia Umar Tavil has trespassed against her oath to guard the common welfare of humanity. She will never set foot in the city again. So there are some pretty startling implications from that lore entry, Xur only appearing to the Guardians in the tower after the Great Hunt's conclusion seems to imply that the Ahamkara were indeed a vital part of the Nine's plan, and that the Guardians represent a second-best choice. The lore here does give us a little more insight into the situation, from a source that some might not have anticipated. Skolas, the Rabbit, twice defeated as Wolf Kell and Kell of Kells. Lavinia's exile from the Lost City would bring her to the Reef, where she discovered a record of Skolas' last words before we put him to death in a trial by combat. The Prison of Elders record has Skolas saying the following. Mara. Skolas' mouth was not made for that name. Mara, do you hear? The Queen of the Reef sentenced him to the fate of all fallen, Lavinia's companion sighs, to strive and struggle and fail, but he was already lost. His mind broke at the Citadel, where he saw into time. Skolas blows white vapor. Frost crackles on his mask. You gifted me to the Nine, and they sent me back. People think you are a fool, that you made an error releasing me, led your people to die on my blade, as I led my people to die on yours. Lavinia's translator murmurs along with the Kell's words. The Nine's agent never told me why he released me. Now I know. You know also, I think. Both of you require the Guardians, and the Nine do not understand life and death. So they sent me back to you, to make the Guardians come. They did not comprehend the harm. I do not comprehend them either. I traveled among the Jovians for years, in their dominion, but I do not know the Nine. You, Mara Sov, you are the only one who bargains with them. You are the only one who has foreseen their role in the game. You keep your successes secret so that the world knows only your mistakes. No wonder I underestimated you. He hefts the scorch cannon his jailers have given him. Lavinia thinks of the tools his house once favored. Shuttle and loom. I saw the shape of the Nine on Venus, a place that was once precious to them, where wishes could transfigure their flesh. I saw that they are bound to this star and to these worlds. You are of a kind in that way, you and the Nine. Not I. I will be glad to leave this world, Mara Sov. I am tired of being a pawn. So crucially, this tells us why the Nine were interested in Venus and what they were getting from the Ahamkara. Skolas all but spells it out in this one line. I saw the shape of the Nine on Venus, a place that was once precious to them, where wishes could transfigure their flesh. This is hugely important because one of the reasons that the city began hunting down the Ahamkara was that they were creating dramatic changes to Venus. Eris Morn's report to Mara Sov states the following. The Ahamkara remain an issue. There's still so much we can learn from them, but what they've done to Venus, no two Guardians see the same thing. Consultants from the War Cult have been brought in to gauge disagreements over timelines of events. One of our warlocks stared into the paracausal phenomenon that formed over the Ishtar Academy and shot himself. He is not an authorized Thanatonaut. Luckily, his ghost hid from him beforehand. We managed to get him back. He has no lingering physical wounds, but he will need time to recover. We thought we were gods who had found an opportunity for more power. A silly notion to the likes of you and me, but the average Guardian has not been threatened like this. The Titans are beside themselves. We will take extreme measures, we must. But these creatures have such means. They will flee far and wide, perhaps all the way to you. Mara, I implore you, if you hold your people as dearly as you say you do, you will end them on sight. Eris Morn. This shows just how terrifying these changes were to the Guardians of the Tower. The Ahamkara presented themselves as a power unlike anything in the system, but the context of the Nine makes this power important. Take a look at the small words spoken between Joxer and the Techian Ilan when weapons are requested from the Awoken at the beginning of the Great Hunt. Joxer clarifies the city's request for weapons and states the Ahamkara are blasting and paving entire regions of Venus, to which Ilan replies they wouldn't be so base, they are rewriting Venus. Take this back and remember what Skolas said. I saw the shape of the Nine on Venus, a place that was once precious to them, where wishes could transfigure their flesh. I think the important word here is the word transfigure. Transfiguration is literally the act of changing one's form or appearance and has a variety of religious connotations as well, as many things in Destiny do. I think this might be what the Nine are trying to achieve. I think the Nine were trying to reform themselves with wishes. Their shape was being carved into the world by the Wish Dragons, and the changes were so horrifying that Guardians who beheld them went mad. So we now know that the Nine and the Ahamkara had dealings with each other, and it seems that we can draw some basic implications, including this above all else. The Nine were looking to the Ahamkara to make them more real. At very least, that's the assertion by all the parties who mention the Nine and Venus. Then we have various other facts and notes that we've gathered. First of all, there's only one being that seems to have had direct dealings with both the Nine and the Ahamkara that is prominent to this story, and that's Mara Sov. We know from promotional art that she'll feature in the next season. She is the Queen of the Reef after all. I'm going to be listening out for her words on both the Nine and the Ahamkara next season to see if there's something new we can learn about her and the Nine and potentially relations they have with the Ahamkara. Mara also has personal reasons to tangle with the Nine beyond this. Sieur Ido may still be out there. I'd also recommend that we all keep our eyes peeled for mentions of Venus, the Nine, the Ahamkara, the reason for the Great Hunt happening in the first place, and the means by which we might contact the Nine. Finally, given that this is an Awoken space, I would recommend looking into one last thing. Listen out for word of the Cocytus Apertures. If A113 comes up, we may be interacting with it for one reason or another. For those of you who don't know, the Cocytus Apertures, alternatively referred to as Station A113, is supposedly a series of gateway portals that link to the space controlled by the Nine themselves. No one has passed through or looked into these gateways without turning mad. If we need to empower the Wish Dragon that we hatch next season with wishes grand enough for it to grant us a chance to enter the Traveler, the Nine and their unbreakable will that spans across planets might have a part yet to play. It's a long shot, but I feel like it might be prime dungeon material. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want more Destiny content from the Season of the Wish, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But, as per usual, know that your viewership as always is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Per audacia ad astra. I'll see you, Starside.